things you stated in one of your interviews is that you think other human tragedies have far exceeded the tragedies that the Jewish people have endured. What other human tragedies are you referring to there?
We have no shortage of tragedies, really. Look what's happening, partly because our great guilt. What's happening in the territory which we, by our foolish policy, destabilized and stripped of the normal institutions which were necessary for conducting relatively regular human life, regular routine. Look what's happened in Arabic world, in Yemen, in Syria, in Libya, what's happening now. There was always a pressure for many decades already on Europe because of the very drastic differences of the level of living in Europe and in Africa, for example. Pressure of so-called economic migrants. But now we have a new phenomenon again. And that is why Europe, to which doors they knock, is so nervously reacting. I think there is a psychological explanation of that. These people who are coming now are refugees not from people hungry without bread and water. People who yesterday were proud of their homes, were proud of their position in society, were very often very well educated, very well off, and so on. But they are refugees now. They lost their homes, they lost their position in society, they lost everything they hard worked in order to achieve during their life, and they come here. And whom they meet here? What I mentioned before, the precariat. We have nightmares. What if I have a very nice social position, I would like to stick to it, I would like to continue, but what if tomorrow I will learn that my company doesn't exist anymore and my services are not needed? So we are already afraid. Precariat lives by anxiety, by fear. That is the most important defining mark of the precariat. Precariat comes from the French word précarité, and précarité in loose translation means walking on moving sands, not having firm ground under your feet. And we ascribe this fear, logically, to the fact that there, somewhere in the cyberspace, well beyond control of our government, not to mention our own control, there are forces which we call by the name of global powers, which can do whatever they wish. They may strike at any moment. If my job is threatened, that's because of the process of globalization. And there is some truth in it. It's not foolishness to say something like that. And now come those people from Syria and Libya, for example, and they bring bad news. They bring these threats from faraway countries here at our backyard. They suddenly appear next to us. We can't turn back, we can't turn our face. We must. They are too obtrusive, too many of them. We can't omit their presence. And they signalize, they embody all our fears. Yesterday they were very powerful men in their country, very happy men. Like we are here today. But look what's happened today. They are homeless, they are begging, they have without the means of existence. I think that the shock is only beginning. We are far from coming to digest the new situation, adjust ourselves to this new situation. Hospitality possibilities are not limitless, and the human ability to endure their suffering and rejection is not limitless either. So you have to exercise what is called empathy. But, and that's a big but unfortunately, going through that, there's no shortcut solution, instant solution. Dialogue is a long, long process. Coming to understanding then takes sometimes the whole generation or even more than one generation. So we have to brace ourselves to a very difficult time coming. This last year wave of immigration was not the last one. There are more and more people waiting for do just that. So you have to accept this is the situation. Let us come together and find a solution.
Can multiculturalism ever work? You were quoted once as saying that in big cities, none of the ethnic religious groups intend to culturally assimilate, and each group is demanding recognition for its own cultural identity. Multiculturalism is very difficult.
Personally, I don't accept the term multiculturalism. It's much, much safer, much more to the point, to speak that we are all cast in multicultural environment. Environment is multicultural. Policy of multiculturalism doesn't make much sense. One aspect, one consequence of it is that we are all armed now, as you know, with Facebook and Twitter and generally access to computer. So we divide our life into online part and offline part. Offline, walking the street, going to your workshop, going to your workplace. You can't avoid meeting strangers. They will be there waiting for you. You have to develop some skill in dealing with their presence. Fortunately, we have online part of life. And all investigation, social research shows that most users of computer use it not in order to learn different new alternative ways of life, to understand them, to learn something from them and so on, but to cut them off, to create for themselves what can be said and called comfort zone. There are no strangers there. If there is somebody pronouncing ideas which I personally don't like, I simply strike him or her out from my network. And I am only among people who applaud every word of mine. It's very pleasurable, but very dangerous because we forget the skills which are absolutely necessary in offline world, in this multicultural situation. We are all tied together, but the trouble is that we didn't even start yet developing cosmopolitan consciousness, which means not only thinking in terms of our direct vicinity, environment, but also understand these global connections which determine the conditions under which we live.